have it woven into
Cause the
recommendations?
signage, at least in front of Lake Bluff, says you're not allowed to park during the school day.
Mhm.
Which doesn't say what that is. If you don't know what this
Hours
school,
wise, yep.
I mean, I don't know if that is from 8:20 to
Right.
2:20, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
And also seems kind of not needed in the
Yes,
middle of the day.
No parking during the.
Cause
day.
like, so I've gone to school
Yeah.
to bring like kid his lunch or something. The street is empty,
Right.
but I have to park a block away
Mhm.
to walk into the school for 5 minutes and leave. Like,
Yeah.
do I really need to do that? Or, I don't know, just that, at least in front of Lake Bluff,
Okay.
the signage just doesn't seem clear and also seems overly aggressive for like, okay, no one can park here all day long, Monday through Friday, even when nothing's happening. I don't know.
I don't think they want, it's secured, I don't think they want people sitting, grabbing kids, that's what I've,
Yeah, maybe it is, I don't know.
So they don't have.
That's, I guess,
Yeah.
that was the only thing that I wasn't sure if we cared that they were going to comment or not.
Well, I'd
or-
be curious if it's consistent with the other schools as well.
School.
Cause if it's just Lake Bluff, that'd be a question of why Lake Bluff is different than, intermediate school or Atwater.
Right,
Cause it's also both sides of the street.
Yeah.
It's not just the side on the street, on the school side, it's the opposite side. So the only option you have then is to go down a side street and park.
Mhm.
And you're technically, as far as I can tell from the signage, you are not allowed legally to stop and run into the school for 5 minutes and come back out. You have to park
You
half,
get the
a full
reason
block
why.
away,
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
There was some comments.
Sometimes those policies originate because they're trying to keep teachers from parking long-term on street in front of the neighborhood.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, there are various reasons.
That's what I was kind of thinking. It's kind of the only school not on Capitol or Oakland. I guess intermediate isn't really either, but the fact that it's back in the neighborhood a little bit more, yeah. I don't know if that's-
You know, and just to pause,
Mhm.
part of looking at different ordinances and variances and things that have happened over the years, it creates this patchwork. And so this may be an anomaly. So looking to Bart's point at other schools, is this something that's normal? Is there a buffer? Did somebody at some point in time say, similar to an airport, we need, a security, a sanitized zone in front of the school, next to the school, by the school, as opposed to having cars that could be at a risk.
My guess is that's not it, just cause the school is so far back off the road.
It is, you got a lot of green
It's-
space. Yeah.
So, I don't know, it just,
And they have ample parking, I think, for their
yeah, they
staff.
have quite a big
Off-site,
parking
yeah.
lot in back, so, I don't know, it just seemed like something that we should at least
Good question.
look at.
What I've noticed with our schools though is like there is, like you said, there's a lot of green space around every one of them. Would there ever be a potential to add surface lot of parking? I know that's expensive, and I know we're scared.
High school?
No.
But even the high school, I mean,
It's a long
to be
way.
honest, that whole side on Capitol, I mean, that could be, a set out lane that you basically take off of Capitol into a separate little angled parking lot across. And I mean, that's not a very beautiful area on the side of the school where the entrance is. So, I mean, I know the front's gorgeous.
That
It looks
isn't
like
that isn't a far out question.
Yeah, I mean, even Lake Bluff, there's so much green space around it. What's not to say on the what would be the east side, you could make one of those kickouts with 50 angle spots there too, or 20.
There's
whatever it would be.
another town in Wisconsin outside of Milwaukee that it's retained us right now. It's a school district retained us to look at all their schools for that exact reason, because they are embedded in neighborhoods and they're traditional walking schools, not drive and pickup. But demographics have changed. The district reach has broadened, and so now they have a lot of drivers, kids being dropped off, picked up, as well as driving their own vehicles. And so they're looking at the green space. The elementary schools that have green space don't want to take away from the ambiance, the environment, the playground space. But that is really the only reason. And then others will advocate, for kids like community space. We want to keep it green. But there are ways to add angled parking. Essentially, it's an extension of on-street. Create a
Yeah.
bump out. There are ways to strategically add supply. So it isn't a comment that's unwarranted. I think and we'll have to look at our notes from meeting with all the principals.
Doesn't
This-
Atwater allow parking overnight
In that lot.
in that little lot too?
Yes.
Do we do that at the other schools?
I think
at
Lake
all?
Bluff
Lake
does too.
Bluff does for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so it's a great, maximizing the use of a
Right.
public resource, yeah, that's a great example of shared parking. And they're out, and then during the day, others
Right.
use it. Mhm.
Good.
I think the high school is really challenged, right now, and that's why we're not advocating to eliminating or restricting the parking around school, the on-street supply. That was a request, they said if you eliminate, options, that's gonna put a greater burden on the student body. So, but they do have green space that they could convert to even temporary parking if absolutely needed. It's just a matter of.
I hate saying it because I
choice.
love
Yeah,
nature. I
that's-
love green
that's a
space.
killer.
I know,
But
but you know, everyone's complaining about parking.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Well,
you gotta give
You know,
somewhere.
I mean, I'm working on a parking lot right now in Pittsburgh that's pervious pavers,
Yeah.
grass growing through. You can mow it, you can plow it, but you look at it and it looks like a park. And those are expensive, but there are ways to create parkable surfaces that are appealing and
Love
still
expensive
also,
solutions here, so let's do it.
still are appealing to the
Yeah.
greenness.
Hey, we put up the ghost train, right? Like we're now trying to
Let's
innovative,
build more
expensive stuff.
ramps everywhere.
Build a structure.
Heated sidewalks.
Trust me, now you got a question?
Was there, I was still reading the report, but like the metro, the loading in the trucks in the park, in the streets, loading zones.
Loading zones.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit and basically identified, because they are blocking, they're either blocking the buses, is looking at taking some of the parking spaces on a per request basis and creating loading zones, but they would be limited hours
Okay.
so that, you know, and I'm guessing, you know, like whether it's, I don't know what the earliest you're allowed to drive, load trucks into the village, but you know, 6 a.m. to noon or 1. Actually, 6 a.m. to noon is more typical, because for restaurants, they want all their loading done before the lunch rush. And that's the least demand on the streets, you know, because not all the businesses are open yet.
Right.
And then afternoon, those become regular parking spaces. That's, we
In here,
talked about that in there.
So yeah, I did share our current, because we recently crafted that ordinance, right, I wrote it,
Yes,
after I
you
got
did.
here, and there have been a few instances where it hasn't been perfect, in terms of, you know, some people have requested it for, I think, extended periods that perhaps don't need it, other people need it for longer periods but can't enforce it. And so, I think just looking at that to make sure what we did
Yeah,
makes sense if we
can
modify.
businesses require their Cisco to only come at a certain time, or, I mean, is that even practical?
I don't think that particular way is practical, but the issue is if there's nowhere for that truck to park, then they can't unload it, and blocking the bus stop is not an option.
Right.
And that's where we're running into problems, and so if they're having that problem, they need to identify somewhere else where they can do it, and the village does have a system right now where you can pay to install a loading zone for a certain time. And so if your business actually needs it, it's our current expectation that you're going to apply for one. However, we have several businesses that would rather just double park or rather use the bus stop, and that's problematic because we can't force them to apply to get a loading zone. I don't know if we ever can. But as long as we make the system as clear that they can apply for it, the police could cite, you know, the truck for parking illegally, and that could drive the conversation further, but there's just, some businesses think, sure, that makes sense, I'll apply for it, it's an asset that I need, others say, I'll just double park or do something else.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's ever gonna be a solution that's gonna fit everyone, and I think that's why our ordinance, you know, could use a second look at, so.
Well, our process, just to
Yeah.
kind of tie this up, we're taking information from the last 2 meetings today, and we're making modifications. We're diving deeper in certain areas. We're providing more clarity, more detail. What we want to do is send out a very refined executive summary for this group, for TAG, as well as the staff to review. because that's gonna give insight into what the next presentation will cover. So right now, we have a very cursory executive summary, very high level, but it's going to provide more detail. And then we'll get feedback, and then we'll hopefully, there won't be too many revisions, but then we'll go and make modifications if necessary, and then the presentation to the public.
Is there gonna be more information? I know you may have got into the snow removal and how this,
Like snow storage or
snow like this on-street night parking and all, some discussion on
Yeah.
leaf removal or, right?
And street cleaning, and
snow,
then the alternate
some-
side helps with that.
Right,
And so when we list the advantages of
Okay.
changing to a system of that nature, that will be spelt out.
that would be helpful.
The reasons why.
'Cause that's gonna be a big concern.
Yeah. Yep.
And I did offer to staff this morning, if something comes up, in the next couple days or whatever, just email it to me, I can pass it along to them, I just kinda wanna make sure I have, that consolidated, so we're not all willy-nilly emailing them, so if something comes up, I'll also extend that to the folks that couldn't come tonight, I already got some DPW comments in my inbox I see, so I'm happy to pass them through, so if you think of something after this meeting, or you read through further and you find something, let me know and I can send it over that way, so that when they do revise it, it's included.
So where did you end up on Morris, Menlo? There was some discussion on local traffic only, is that still?
No, well, the police chief basically said it's unenforceable from
Good.
him, and so we're gonna take that out.
Okay, I just wanted, that would be.
Okay. Thanks for
Okay.
coming out on
Yeah,
this.
thanks, everyone.
Thursday night.
Appreciate it, Tom.
Yeah. All right.
Both ways walking the streets.
Yeah, I got a lot of surfers.
Oh,
here.
yeah.